Hi guys, so in this video I want to show how to change the shoulder trigger buttons on a Nintendo Switch Lite. So it'll be the L and R buttons, not the ZL and the ZR, because they're just rubber membranes. It's these ones here that are actual physical buttons that are attached to the motherboard and the daughter board. This is the ones I want to show you. Now this one actually works fine, but you can hear the difference here. Do you hear that click? You don't have it on that side. Because I'm refurbishing this console to sell it, I want that to be like new. So I'm going to change it, even though the button does work and the console still recognizes that. I still want to change it. So I've made videos before showing how to strip the console down, so I'm not going to show that. I'm just going to take all this out. You have to take everything out because I'm going to need this motherboard out to work on this. So I might just skip to it being stripped down. But if you want to find out how to do it, there, just watch some of my other videos on how to work on a Switch Lite. Now that's everything removed and the motherboard freed up, so you can take it out of the shell. You can clean off the thermal paste here, make it easier to work with, but this thermal paste, I actually just put it on fresh, so I don't want to waste it. I'm just going to try and avoid touching it so I don't make a mess on my gloves and the motherboard. But this is the switch here. This is on the left side of the motherboard the way we're looking at it, but it's actually the R button on the Switch Lite. It's this wee thing here we need to remove. It's the exact same button that's used on the R and L of the Joy-Cons. So you just need to get yourself a replacement Joy-Con button, and that'll be the same one. Normally when I'm working with these on a Joy-Con it's because it's been broken off, but thankfully this one will be easier to work with because the pads haven't been torn. So it'll just be a case of removing this and installing a new one. And when I think about it now, actually I'm going to have to remove the thermal paste because I'm going to have it like that. So I'll just go ahead and clean that off now too. Okay, so I'm using the microscope here to give you a better view. This is the switch here that I was showing just a second ago. So you have two anchor points, one here on one side and the other on the other side. You can see how this has been worn down. You see this metal here, it's so bent out of shape. It should be completely straight, it should be tight in like that there, but you see it's been kind of bent out of shape here through use just, and that's possibly also affecting its clickiness. And then anyway, you have the three pins coming off at the bottom here. So these two I believe are ground, and the middle pin then goes to this point here, and from there it goes on to wherever it needs to go to activate the button press. So we need to remove this here and we need to install a new one. I'm going to use low melt solder on this. So the first thing I'm going to do is put on a little bit of flux around it. And you could use a heat gun here, but I don't see, you wouldn't really need to really. So I'm just going to use low melt solder and the soldering iron to remove it. Now you don't need to be too careful with this at all because we're not going to use this switch again. Also, if it looks like my hands are a bit awkward doing this, normally I wouldn't even bother. Using a microscope for this kind of work, but just so you guys can see it better, I want to keep using the microscope for it. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get the low melt solder to kind of spread around it so I can melt all the points at once. I know low melt solder stays liquid enough if you move over and back, but you can just do whatever way you want to. Again, I'm trying to keep this in view of the microscope, but I can't promise I'm always going to be able to do that. In fact, I might just need to take it away from the microscope a second here just to get it off, because it's quite awkward from that angle. Okay, so it kind of came off in bits there. So we still have some leftover solder. I'm just going to use some solder wick to remove that now. There we go. And I clean that again. So we're going to get our replacement switch here, our replacement button. So you'll get them in a wee blister pack like that. And it should not take this long to get it open. Okay, here we go. So this is our replacement button here. You can see it just sits right on there. Oh, just trying to get this positioned right. And then I'll tack it on with some solder. Actually, the first thing I might do is what I'm going to do is add solder to this pad here, then use that to tack it on. And then we can go from there. Now you can use flux here again if you want, but I find the flux seeps into that button and makes it lose its clickiness again. You can get it cleaned out and everything, but if I can do this without using flux, I'll just try my best to. Now that looks to be sitting on quite good there. So I'll try and do this without moving the switch too much. Just heat up this pad here. Hopefully that'll tack to the switch, or the button rather. Yeah, that's holding that in place now. So I will do the other side as well. I'm just going to connect this with some more flux. Now it's going to be kind of awkward with the microscope, so I'm just going to do it away from the microscope here. But I'm just doing exactly what I did on the other side. And I'm actually going to go over the first side again now that it's been held on with both. I'll just go over this again. There we go. And now we can do the 3 wee pins at the bottom. Let me just get this. Clean that tip there and come in at a better angle. I know it probably looks like I have very shaky hands, but this is very tiny dimensions we're working with here. What looks like a large movement on the microscope is a tiny movement in reality. Now these are bridging, so I actually am going to add some flux to these and get them done properly. Just a wee bit of flux at the bottom, just to remove these bridges, like that. Now I'll go over these again. Let me just increase the heat again here. I forgot to put it back down. So let me just increase that. That should make the solder want to come to the soldering iron rather than stay in those blobs there. There we go. Now you'll find the outside pins are harder to get looking well because they're actually attached to the ground plane, which means they soak away the most heat from the soldering iron because they're attached to the whole board. They're attached to every ground point on this board, so the heat can get wicked away all over the place. But yeah, that looks okay there now. I'm not saying it looks pretty, I'm just saying it looks okay. It looks like it'll hold, which it will. I'm convinced it will. I just want to get those looking nice. I'm just going to feed more flux into that last one just to get it looking nice. There we go. Looking better there now. So yeah, no movement in that. That's solid. So I'm just going to give that all a clean now. Now that's all clean, you can hear the click in that now, so it sounds a lot better. If you find that there's no click in that now when you've put on the new one, it's probably some flux seeped in there. So the way to kind of help that is get like a wee syringe bottle like that there with isopropyl alcohol, 99%, and just feed it into that wee, anywhere you can get it in that button. You want it inside to kind of displace the flux. So just put some in there and then just keep pressing that button. That'll help get rid of the flux trapped inside, and you'll hear the click starting to come back. So that sounds good to me. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put this all back together and test it, and we can test in the in-game or the systems settings. There's a button testing section in that. We're going to go to that there and we're going to test the button to make sure that it's fully working. So I'm just going to skip to that now. Now something I just want to show you that can happen as well, just before I put this all back together. The replacement switches, you'll find sometimes there's a very, very slight difference in size. Like you can see there, if I kind of bring that up close enough and put the light on it, you can see that that switch cannot go down any further. That's literally touching the motherboard. There's no gap there, it can't go down any further. But you'll find this still, you see the way the button is kind of rubbing against it's not giving enough space for it to actually click because it's pressing on the rubber of the button there. So what we need to do there, we can't move that switch down any further. So what I do is I get a wee grinding pen and I grind away just here a little bit, just to make that there switch not sit a little higher, but that wee tab there, give it a little bit more space between that and the button. So just need to do a wee bit, don't do too much. You can always do more, but you can never put it back on. You can never take away what you've grinded already, or you can never replace what you've grinded, sorry. So just do a wee bit at a time, just to try and keep the same angle, because there's a bit of an angle in this. Now this is the slowest setting. I might just do number 2 here. Now I'm going to try that. So yeah, that fits it right there now. I just had to fix that wee switch in there because the rubber's lifting out. Did you hear the clicking there now? So I'll just put the spring in and we can see what it properly sounds like. Well, I can try to put the spring in. There we go. Working good again. So I'm going to skip till this is all back together and we can properly test it on the Switch itself. Okay, now that we have it all back together, we can go to the settings and test that. So we go to controllers and sensors and we go to test input devices, test controller buttons, and it was the right one. Oh, excuse me. So that's working fine there now. They're both working fine. And you just test all buttons here. If you ever open the Switch, so it's just a good habit to get into to test everything. Make sure all the buttons are working, the game reader and all that. But yeah, that button is definitely working there now. There's no problems with that. So that's how you change that button, the R button on a Switch Lite, but it's the same with the L button. It's just the daughter boards you need to take out and work with that. Possibly a bit easier because there's less to take out, but it's the exact same. Same also for changing on a Joy-Con because it's the same button we used and it's the same connections. So I'm going to end the video there now. Hopefully that was helpful, and yeah, thanks for watching.